date picker or calendar element. Before going to discuss about what is a date picker or a calendar element, how that big date picker or calendar element will look like. Suppose this is a demo website like this. There are different types of date pickers which we'll be discussing in a while in different websites. If you see, it is a date picker element, and if you click on this element, the date along with month as well as along with year is highlighted, and you can select any of the date from this date picker element. If you can select 19, yes, it can select. Actually, date picker is a different type of element. Let us discuss here. Very important. Normally, every web page is divided into two types of web elements. One is standard web elements. The other is non-standard web elements. When I say non-standards, they are customizable. Standard web elements. These elements are the same on every web page, like buttons, radio buttons, checkboxes, links, images. Wherever you see in which website you will go, like you can take Amazon.com. You can go it here and you can inspect in HTML. If there are any links or any buttons, any checkboxes, or so on so. So those are implemented or they are same on every web page. But coming to non-standard web elements, those elements will not be same on the web page. Example is date picker. Example is date picker. How we can say date picker is a non-standard web element? See, you can handle date picker element or you can see date picker element in different ways. I can say it is a combination of multiple web elements which contains sometimes drop downs. If you can see here in this particular web page, you are having a drop down and you are having a text box. So it is a combination of multiple web elements. One is a text box, and here if you can see, and in this text box I can try to select any value. And if you can go for any another website, you can see in this particular website you can see different type of that calendar element. Suppose if you can say departure date. Once I click on this departure date, since it is also nothing but a date, nothing but a calendar element, you can see here in this particular calendar element, it is a combination of drop downs. Here it is a text box. Upon selecting the appropriate date, it will try to enter into the text box. So as said, it is a combination of multiple web elements like drop downs, all dates. These are all arranged in a table. And inside table, if you can see, we are having arrow marks to select previous and next dates or future dates. So these are nothing but buttons. Again, if you see, each link or each date is nothing but a link. If you can see here, the particular 20, 21, all the dates which you see here are nothing but links. So a calendar web element is a combination of multiple web elements, buttons, text box, links. And as discussed, calendar element is placed in a table. Inside the table, all the dates along with month and year along with different web elements are placed here. Then, how can you handle this date picker element? Very important. Almost all applications will have this. Whenever you are selecting date of birth, if you want to travel to somewhere, so you will try to check travel applications. So in the travel applications, you only have a provision to select future dates, not the past dates, future and current dates. So that is another type of calendar element. Suppose if you are in some another website, if you are about to register, it can ask you for date of birth. In that case, the date of birth will be a past date, not the future date. So handling date picker element is somewhat very tricky and very easy. Almost 90% of applications will use send keys method. If you can see here, there is a text box. Inside the text box, when I select any date, it is just entering the text here. So nothing but it is a text box. So I can use send keys method. Similarly, here also, just I need to capture the format manually so that I can enter the same date here. So 90% we use send keys method. Yes, there are different cases. Depending upon the date picker element, we write our own logic. Very important. Go to PyCharm, create directory of date 29. Let me create date picker element, date picker 1. So I will automate this particular date picker element which is there in this particular website. For every automation script, these are common: importing WebDriver, by desired capabilities, initializing a driver variable, opening the URL, and maximizing the browser window. And if there is any synchronization problem, to avoid that, we use implicit wait. Very important. This is the basic thing before writing any automation script, which we need to define. Then, if you can see here, this particular date picker element is placed inside a frame. How it is placed inside a frame? Let me check here. You can try to inspect this. Yes. Inside this iframe, nothing but a frame, you are having t head, and in the body, you are having, see, date picker element. Yes. So inside the frame. So if you can see here, in this particular web page, I can set it for frame. I have only one frame. So if there is only one frame, I can go for indexing. If there are multiple frames, switching with the help of index is not advisable. So what I will do, since there is only one frame, inside the frame, there is a date picker element. So I need to switch to that particular frame and I need to interact with this date picker element. Otherwise, I will not be able to identify this element. I will not be able to perform any action on this. Very important. Then, since I am only having one frame, what I can do with the help of driver variable, driver dot switch to dot frame, and inside the frame I will specify the index value. Since I am only having one index, one frame, I can specify that frame index value as 0. Very important. And after switching to this particular frame, I can find this text box and I can use send keys method. In different ways, I can handle this particular element. Try to listen it very carefully. Since it is like a text box, inspect this. It is like a text box. I can identify this particular text box and I can use send keys method. Yes. Before using send keys method, you need to see the format of the date which we enter. Suppose if you can see here, when I click on 13, it is just entering month first, date next, and year. It is not entering date first, month next, and year next. So you need to be very careful. First, you need to use or send month, next date, and next year. In this format, you need to send the text into this particular text box. And if you can see here, this particular date picker element having a text box having the ID attribute as date picker. I will use this and I will use driver dot find element by dot id, and in the id I will specify that id attribute value, and I can use send keys method. In the send keys method, definitely you need to choose the format which it has given. If you can see, first month, date, and year. And let me try to enter some previous date, like 09 is the month, September. In the September, 12 is the date, and you can try to specify it as 1995. I want to select in this particular date, so I can use send keys method to send the particular date with month first, date next, and year in the date picker element. This is what you need to do. We execute this. If you can see here, yes, after opening this particular website, maximizing that browser window, it has switched to this particular frame, and it has find the element of the date picker element. Then it has used send keys method in order to send that appropriate value. Likewise, you can send the value. As I said, 90% of the applications will use send keys method. It is very simple. Then it is by using send keys method. Then what is the another way which I can handle the same element? So if you can see here, let me close this. If you can see, suppose my requirement is future date. Like if you want to select 2025, some December 9. So 2025 is nothing but a future year. So I want to select the future date in the future year. So for this, what I will do, definitely I will try to click next button. So until unless the date is December 9, month as well as year, right? And once I landed into this particular month as well as year, then I need to stop clicking this next button. And out of these multiple dates, I can select my appropriate date. So first thing I need to do is I need to check whether the month in this particular calendar element is equal to my required month or not. And I need to check whether the year is my required year or not. If it is the past date which I need to select, definitely I will click previous button. If it is a future date, I will click next button. Once the required month and the required year are matching, then you stop here. You will say that to the driver. And once these are matching, you will select appropriate date. That selecting is nothing but clicking. So it is very important to understand the logic which I am going to write right now. So this is by using send keys method. So how can I use date picker method? It is a custom method. How you can write your own logic to handle the same element instead of send keys method. So first, my requirement is to select a previous year. Suppose you can take like 2022, and in that year I want to select the month of, like, suppose you can say December, or you can take like June. Any month you can take. In this particular year, in this particular month, I want to select the date of 10. Very important. Once you switch to that particular frame, then definitely if you want this date picker element to be enabled, you come here. After switching to frame, definitely you perform click action on this element instead of sending send keys method. So that's what we are doing here. After switching to frame, instead of send keys method, if I want to select the date by date picker method instead of send keys method, I will use click action on the same date picker element dot click. When I click, it will highlight date picker element. In the date picker element, I need to check whether the month first and the year are matching or not. If they are matching, you stop there and you can select the appropriate date which you want. That's what you need to write the logic. Please listen it carefully. Then what I'm doing, I'm just initializing a variable of month variable. So this month variable is nothing but this is the month which you are trying to see here. Let me inspect this. So in the date picker element, I'm just inspecting the month and the year. If you can see here, it is having the class of date picker month. Similarly, date picker year. So what I will do, I will try to write driver dot find element, not find elements, by dot class. Class name I can use since it is having class attribute. So in the class attribute, I can specify value. Then since this particular month is having some text, I need to get the text dot text. Similarly, year. Control C. Instead of month, you can specify year here. You can initialize a year variable, which is nothing but this is the value of the class of that particular year. Similarly, it is also having some text. If you can see in the HTML code, this is the year HTML and this is the month HTML. So accordingly, I have written attributes here, attribute values. Then what I need to do, if the month and the year is equal to my required month and my required year, you just stop there. I need to say, right, what I need to do now, if month is equal to my required month and year is equal to my required year, very important. I'm just fetching the month and the year from the calendar element. Yes, anyway, they are not equal at the beginning. So what you need to do, you should make them equal. Accordingly, you need to write the logic. So what I'm saying, until unless your required month and year values are matching, you need to perform the click action on the buttons, whether it is a next or previous button. If it is a previous date, it should try to click the previous button. If it is a future date, it should try to click the next button. So until unless means I don't know when it will be equal. Until unless it is equal, I need to perform the click action on either previous or next buttons. I don't know means it is an infinite loop. Until unless that condition becomes true, and I don't know the condition as well. I don't know when it will become true. So for the same, what you will do, you will initialize infinite loop. Very important. I need to select my required month and I need to select my required year. And once I clicked on this particular date button or the date element, calendar element is enabled. And inside the calendar element, I'm having month as well as year. I don't know. Even though upon clicking this particular next and previous buttons, I don't know when this particular values will be matching, month and year. So I need to run an infinite loop until unless this condition becomes true. Once it is true, I need to stop here. So my requirement is I need to select year 2022 and month June 2022. June 2022 is my required month and year. So until unless it gets June 2022 here, it will try to click the next button. Once the month and year is matching, you need to stop here. Otherwise, it will go and perform the previous button. Once these values are matching, you need to stop here. Since it is a loop, if you want to break the loop execution, definitely you need to use break statement. Very important. If my month and year are matching, definitely you stay here. Don't go anywhere. Don't click on any buttons. So for saying that, I have initialized a break statement. I need to come out of this loop once my month and year are matching. Yes, now my month and year is matching. Now here comes the picture. Yes, and the other thing, another important point is, if month and year is not matching, then what would be the case? It needs to click either a previous button, or it needs to click either a next button. So if matching, fine, else click on the previous and next buttons. Driver dot find element by dot XPath. You need to write the XPath for the buttons. If you can see here, if you can inspect these particular buttons, this is one button and this is another button. This is previous button and this is another button. So you can write an XPath here. So Control F, and you can write your own XPath. At the rate, you can again inspect this, and if you can see here, title is having next. At the rate, title is equal to next. Yes, it is for the next button, and inside the next button is having span. SPAN. Similarly, for the previous also. So once my month and year are not equal, either you click on previous button, either you click on next button, until unless my required month and year are matching. If my month and year is matching, break there, stop there. That's what I need to say to this. So what I will do, I have just to find this. This is for the next button. If I want to select the future date, driver.find element by .xpath. Yes, I have already mentioned here the XPath, and you need to be very careful whenever you are trying to write the value of the XPath. If the month and year is not same, click on next button until unless this particular month and year is matching. Once it is able to click, again it will try to check month and year. Again it will try to match the month and year of my required month and year. If it is not matching, if it is a future date, it will try to click on the next button in a loop until unless my month and year is matching. Very important logic it is. There may be another case. If it is a previous date, I need to click on previous button. Instead of next, I can specify previous year. The same, if you can see, yes, this is the previous button. So we just try to comment anything since it is a previous date. So I will just comment clicking the next button. I will only click on the previous button, the button which you are seeing here. This is the previous button. Suppose if you can take like some 2000, and in the 2000 year, June month needs to be highlighted. Let me execute this so that you can understand. It will take some time because it is a long previous year. Upon opening this particular website, yes, it is trying to click on the previous button. So that is the reason why previous button is highlighted. You can observe. Until unless the year is 2020 to 2000 and the month is June, clicking of the previous button will not stop. It is running in a infinite loop. I don't know. Even though after clicking the next button or the previous button, I don't know whether it may equal. So that is the reason why I have initialized while true. It is nothing but an infinite loop. If you can see here, it has landed on June 2000. Suppose this is for the previous date. I want to select it for future date. I can click on next button. Let me execute the same. You can see it here. Once the year is 2030 and the month is June, it will stop clicking the next button. Yes, June 2030. Yes. Once my month and year is matching, I am just saying, hey, loop, break there. You stop there. Once you stop there, I can select my required date. That's what I'm just saying by just putting a break statement here. Yes, this is the future date which I want to select. So I have clicked on the next button. If it is a previous date, I can click on the previous button. That is fine. Yes. Once the particular month and year is in place, I need to click on the date. So if you observe, let me inspect this. All the dates are nothing but links. You can see it here. TD of A. Sorry, let me write here. Control F. If you can see here, inside TD, since it is nothing but a table, you are having dates. So every date is nothing but a link. The same I have written here, just for your understanding. These are all the dates, like 30 dates, 30 links. You can see it here. So out of these particular dates, I need to select my required date. How I can select? So out of these particular dates, these are many dates, many elements. So definitely I need to use find elements method. Once my required month and year is in place, I can select dates. Dates is equal to driver dot find elements by dot xpath. So what is the xpath? Just we have seen. You can specify as td/a. You can write your own xpath also. It is up to your choice. So this particular locator will find all the dates, and for each date, or I can take as like for date in dates, if date dot text is equal to date my required date. So instead of this, what I will do, since I have already defined with the date name, you can use this date dot text for each and every date element in this particular dates. It is having some text. What is the text here? Suppose if it is 29th day, you are having 29, 28th day, you are having 28, 27th day, you are having 27, like this. So I'm just fetching that text and equating that text to my required date. Once it is equal, I'm just saying, hey date, you just select. For selecting, you need to press click. You need to press the particular date, nothing but click action. Once you select your required date, you just break there. That what you are just saying. So this is, you need to keep out of the loop, very important. And let me execute this one more time. You can see that my required date is in the year 2030, in the month June, and I need to select 10th of that particular June month. Yes, June month 06, and the value I need to select is 10th of that particular June month, and 2030 is the year. That what we need to select, that we have selected. Similarly, you can specify whatever the date which you required, whether it is a previous date or whether it is a future date. And one important point to be noted here is, while handling these particular calendar elements, you need to be very careful that in travel applications, if it is a travel application, we select only current and future dates, not previous dates. In some applications, if you want to enter date of birth, date picker allows only previous year dates, not the future year dates. So accordingly, you need to write the logic. This is a generic element. You can select previous or future dates. But if it is an application or an element which is a specific, which it can convey a specific requirement, definitely you need to write your own logic. Or instead of this, if I don't want to write any logic, if it is supporting send keys method, you can try to use send keys method. Very important. Yes, up to now, we have seen the date picker element, which is there inside a frame, and inside the frame, you need to select particular dates. But the same date picker element, the calendar element, is defined in another way. Like if you come into this particular website, if you can see here departure date, when you click on this particular departure date, calendar element is enabled, and if you see month and year are drop downs. Month and year are drop downs. In the previous one, it is not a drop down, but here it is a drop down. So you need to identify this particular element and need to perform click action on this. Then after performing the click action, month and year drop downs will be enabled. So definitely you need to use select tag. Why I'm saying? So you can inspect this. If you can see here, this particular month, let me try to scroll it, is having a selector tag. Similarly, that particular year, and it is a drop down, it is having selector tag. Definitely you can import select class, and you can select whatever the date or the month or the year which you can use. And similarly, once you select your required month and year, the same action we can perform. We can select all the dates. I will loop each and every date, and if the date is equal to my required date, then I can press click button. Yes, let me write that logic. So date picker 2, new Python file, very important. So in this, you will use, or you can handle that calendar element by using select class, because it is a drop down. It is a drop down. So we are using select class method here, and you will anyway open this particular URL by using driver.get, maximizing that browser window. And if there is any synchronization problem, you need to handle that by using implicit wait or explicit wait, or you can also sometimes handle by using static wait, like you can use sleep, and you can specify the time which you want to halt. Right. Once you landed onto this particular page, you need to perform the click action on this particular button. Yes, it is also having some input tag, means it is also some text box. But to take it as an assignment, you try to use send case method. It is very simple. As like after just finding that element, you just need to use send case method. Let me tell you a different way of handling this. If you can see, this particular element is having input tag, and these are having multiple attributes: type, class, name, ID, and you can take any attribute. So let me take ID attribute, driver dot find element, not elements, by dot ID, and you can specify that ID value here. What is the ID value we are having? Departon is the ID value. Yes. After identifying this particular element, you need to perform the click action. Once you perform the click action, this particular calendar element will be enabled. Then, once this calendar element is enabled, since month and year are drop downs, definitely you need to use select class. How you can try to use select class? Yes, before going to this, you can just identify the particular month and year. And if you can see here, it is having multiple attributes, and you can select any value of the particular attribute. So let me take date handler. Let me write the text path, driver dot find element, not elements, by dot text path. And if you can see here, let me write the text path. Let me use / and star at the rate data handler HNDL here. So that is equal to, sorry, and to specify that in small case data handler, and I need to specify the value. What is the value which the data handler is having? If you can see here, select month is the value of this particular attribute, and thereafter what I need to do, I need to apply select class here, because this particular month is nothing but a drop down. So definitely in order to handle drop downs, if it is having a select class or select tag, you need to use select class here for that particular element. So you need to be very careful whenever you are trying to use the select. Yes. Similarly, this is for month. How can you select it for year? You can inspect this particular year also, and if you can see, you are having select here is the value of data handler. You can use that, and both are drop down, so you have used select class. So once I apply select class to the drop down, I can select by value, by visible text, by index. So what I will do, I will try to assign it to one variable month, and this is year. With the help of this, I can try to select by visible text. What is that visible text you are seeing here? So if it is a month, you can see these are all the visible text like August, September, October, November, April, and these are all. So I need to select August, suppose. You can specify August here. So if I want to select the year, I can select it by visible text. Instead of visible text, you can select by index also. You can select by value also. You can specify anything you want. You can take that as an assignment. So if you see in this particular drop down, you are having only two particular texts. One is 2024 and 2025, like you are seeing here. So I will specify 2025. Yes, these are drop downs. I can select the values in the drop down by using visible text. Yes, once these are selected, I need to select any particular date. You can understand how this month and year is selected. If you can see here, it has opened that particular website and it has selected the year and month. You can see it here. This is August, which I specified, but I want to be selected by different date. How I can use that? If you can see, because we can see it here. The departure date, the 2025, it is only having January, February, and March. So you need to give if you are selecting the future date. So let me specify Feb here instead of that. Likewise, you can select the previous date also. You can specify 2024 here. You can specify the previous month or future month. If you can see, it has opened and that needs to select the future month. No such element exception. Why? Because since upon clicking this particular element, only future dates or future months are available. So upon clicking this, first it will select month and thereafter year. So what you can do, you can try to replace the positions or you can specify the future months here. Let me execute it one more time and let me execute it as 2024. See, according to the element, you need to write the logic. That's what the main concept is. You can see it here. It has selected appropriate month and date. So in the similar way, you can specify 2025, but you need to make sure that before selecting this particular month, you are executing that month instead of trying to select year. First, you are trying to select month. So you need to be very careful. Accordingly, you need to write the logic. And once you have selected the month and the year, you need to select the date. The same logic which you used here will be useful here. Very important. You can take this particular locator and you can try to check whether the locator is matching or not. And you can try to Control F, Control V. Yes, it has 6 elements. So that is the reason why it is showing 6, this particular locator. You can use that and you can select the particular date. Instead of date, what I am doing, I'm just specifying the value. Suppose you can take 25 only. So once my date got selected, I need to come out of this particular loop. That's it. Run date picker 2. And if you see, it has selected 25 December 2024. This is what I have specified in the logic. In the same way, you can write your own logic and you can handle date picker elements.